Today we're taking a look at Wii on-the-rail shooters. I just got spit on the end of my Wiimote.
What's that? Out in space, it's a station with a T-Rex face. Firing lasers and playing games and killing all those herbivores. Out beyond the atmosphere, he's collecting stuff and striking fear. Come on board and grab a beer for gameplay vids and retro cheer. T-Rex Space Station.
Hi guys, it's Ben here. How's everyone doing? Today I thought I'd look at some of the Wii on-the-rail shooters that I've collected over the years. This is a really fun genre of video game that I've been really getting into lately, and I thought I'd show off some of the games with you. Now, I never really had that many on-the-rail shooters at home up until kind of the PS1 days, and Time Crisis came out and you could buy the bundle with the light gun, and I also had the pedal that you could press down to duck behind things. And I really enjoyed that. And around that time, most of my friends seemed to have light guns as well, and we were all getting into it. And there were some really great games on the PS1, you know, other games like Point Blank, which is a fantastic light gun game that Novabug's been showing some footage of recently. But on-the-rail shooters I've not really played very much since then. You know, I sold my PS1 collection and the light gun. And I guess part of the reason why I haven't got back into it is because I couldn't be bothered buying the equipment again and getting hold of another gun. But the Nintendo Wii is a system that was really set up for on-the-rail shooters just by virtue of how the Wiimote plays. You know, you've already got that kind of aim and the infrared, and it's just basically set up for it. And so I really started getting back into on-the-rail shooters when I was getting into Wii games. Now, for most of my light gun games or on-the-rail shooters, I use this Perfect Shot by Nyko, which is basically just a bit of plastic that you stick your Wiimote into, but it gives you kind of that gun feel. It makes it feel much more arcadey and more realistic than it does just holding the the Wiimote in your hand and pointing it at the screen. And I know there's also the Wii Zapper, which I've never really bought, and I thought didn't look quite as good as those because you've got to have the nunchuck at the back there and kind of hold it like a shotgun. But either way, I just really love this genre of game, and I think the Wii does them very well. Alright, so I'm going to have a chat about some of my games here. First up, I wanted to talk about Ghost Squad. I don't know if you can see that there. This is a game that I've showed some footage of a few months back when I first got my video camera up and running. And I really had to mention this game first because it's absolutely fantastic. It's an arcade port, and it really stays true to that arcade feel. It's so much fun, and it just has that arcadey action, light-hearted, and addictive feeling to it. You basically play as like I think you're a member of like one of these hit squads, and you're kind of fighting terrorists, and you've got like 3 different levels. I think there's like a mansion, a jungle, and an aeroplane, as there always seems to be. And it's just really fast-paced and fun and really addictive. You know, it's got all the classic elements, enemies diving out from behind boxes and hostages that walk slowly across and you've got to try and not shoot them. What is it with those in video games? Hostages seem so dumb. They're always like standing awkwardly close or jumping out at you. It's like, I'm going to shoot you if you jump out at me. I'm sorry. I know I'm good at these games, but I'm not that good. I'm actually not that good, to be honest. And what's really great, you know, it sounds like, 3 different levels wouldn't be that much, but there is a really large amount of content here. And one of the ways they do that is by you can basically the paths bifurcate at different points, and you can choose which way to go. So say, for example, there'll be an option to take a really stealthy approach and creep in round the back, or there'll be an option to do an all-guns blazing style assault, and that will affect how the mission pans out. And it's really nice to play back through the levels and kind of choose a different path and make different choices. There's also some really fun kind of challenges in the game where things are varied, like quick time events. So there's hand-to-hand combat where you have to aim at the screen and shoot basically, and block punches and avoid knife attacks. There's like some quick time events where you use a sniper and you've got a certain number of seconds to take people out. And there's also one where you've got to get a headshot at one of the last bosses, I think, on the plane level. You've got to basically, you get one shot to take him down, you've got to get a headshot. It's those kind of fun little challenges that make it really addictive and really fun to play. Not only that, but there's a great deal of kind of replayability here because you get points as you go along. Now, the way to get more points is to kind of dispatch enemies quickly. If you shoot multiple enemies with one bullet, which is possible with things like the shotgun, it all adds up into a score counter. And at the end, your overall success is added up into a score, and that gives you kind of like experience points. And you'll basically level up and get new medals. The levels will level up between 1 and 3 in terms of difficulty and the amount of content there is there and different things that you can do. And you can use I think your score to then unlock different things, like unlock ridiculous costumes, unlock new play modes for the multiplayer, and also unlock new weapons. Now I should mention the multiplayer is fantastic and it supports 4-player support. I said support too many times there. I played with 2 of my other friends and it was hilarious having 3 people on the screen all competing for kills, fighting to get the power-ups, and just having a great big laugh really. It's just really, really fun. It's a great party game just to bring out. And I know that you can unlock lots of different modes as well, and I think I just unlocked Ninja mode, which I don't actually know what it involves, but it sounds like it could be a lot of fun. You can also unlock ridiculous costumes, and I can see on the back here there's someone wearing like a panda costume, which is just hilarious. Okay, sticking with the arcade ports, next up is the House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return. And the first thing I thought when I got this is, why didn't you put number 1 in there? Couldn't you just put the whole trilogy to make it complete? But never mind, 2 and 3 are great anyway. It was probably the first one, House of the Dead 1, that I played most in the arcade when I was a kid. I think we had an arcade machine back in the cinema that I used to really love playing. And these are really, really iconic games, and they're up there in the list of like most influential you know, on-the-rail shooters that have loads of other on-the-rail shooters have taken inspiration from. It's really hilarious playing these back because they're so cheesy. Like the voice acting and dialogue is horrendous. It's like, something bad has happened today. I'll save you. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe that anyone ever passed this off as being adequate voice acting. But I kind of have come to love that, and I love the kind of cheesiness, and like, it just takes me back to that time of playing those on-the-rail shooters back in the arcades. And it's got really, really satisfying gameplay mechanics as well. It's so much fun just blowing up the zombies and seeing the bullet holes and blowing heads off and all that kind of stuff. And it's really addictive. There's 2 different modes on here. You've got the arcade mode and also a mode called original mode. And I tend to just play the arcade mode. The original mode, I think you get to choose like between different power-ups and things, and I think you can unlock weapons and things as you go along. But the arcade mode is really where I find my enjoyment, and it's a really challenging game. It's not easy to go through by any means. It takes quite a lot of practice, and I found towards the end I was getting a very itchy trigger finger. Not itchy, achy. I don't know why my finger would be itchy, that's slightly awkward. Really achy, like trying to click just the sheer number of enemies to get rid of. And you know, there's a great variety of enemies. There's ones that have axes that like cover the faces, there's really fast ninja ones, and you've got to respond really quickly. Similarly to Ghost Squad, there's rescuing, not hostages here, but rescuing innocent civilians. And you kind of get a few seconds to try and react really quickly and shoot the zombies and stop them from getting mauled and killed. And that's always really, really fun. And they tend to give you really cheesy, "Thank you for saving me," crappy dialogues once you've done it. But yeah, I mean, these are just classic games, and it's fantastic to have them at home on the Wii, and they work really, really well with the Light Gun, you know, with the Wiimote and the Light Gun add-on thing. So I'd highly recommend that. Sticking on with the House of the Dead theme then, here's an original House of the Dead title for the Wii only, which is the House of the Dead Overkill. And this is a superb game. It's so much fun, and it actually has a very different feel to the you know, the original House of the Dead games. This game, the best way to describe it is like being part of a 70s cop movie. It's really over the top, it's really cheesy. You've got these 2 kind of cops, like one's a kind of Samuel L. Jackson kind of character that keeps saying motherfucker all the time, like every other word is fuck. And that's great as well, because the Wii has often been like touted as being the, you know, the kiddie console. It's kind of nice to have some adult comedy and a bit of grit. And the plot is very similar to like the House of the Dead games. There's some evil guy that's made zombies everywhere, and you're kind of chasing him through different levels. I think it was Goldman in House of the Dead 2, and this one it's some other guy with some other name, some other generic evil guy. But it's really, really fun, and it's very cinematic. You can kind of tell that it's pushing the Wii to its limit in terms of the graphics. They've tried to make it flow really, really well, and it is kind of like watching or being part of a movie. The only downside to that is that occasionally when I was playing it, I did notice some frame rate trouble. A little bit of lag here and there, a little bit of lack of responsiveness when you're playing. But that's not to detract from an otherwise fantastic game. And in this game you unlock weapons via money. So you basically get money depending on how well you do on the missions. How fast you do things, what collectibles you got. There's loads of really fun collectibles as well, like there's brains that you've got to shoot, and if you can get the full number you get a load of bonus cash. But you only get glimpses, like sometimes you get a few seconds, the camera will pan one way and you've got to shoot the brain really quickly. But it's really, really fun, and it's so gory. I think it's more gory than the other ones, and you get benefits from like being more gory and exploding things. But you can just splatter zombies into piles of blood, and arms and legs go everywhere, and heads blow off. And that's really, really fun. And it feels like a House of the Dead game, but it also feels different. It feels new, and it's an original game that's really, really nice to play and has a lot of content there as well. And again, you can unlock mini games here. I think it's like a survival mode where you've got to shoot as many zombies as you can to stay alive. There's like a save the hostages mode, and another one that I've forgotten. But really loads of content and a lot of fun in multiplayer too. Okay, moving away from the kind of quirky, tongue-in-cheek, funny ones, we come on to Dead Space Extraction. Now, I'm not hugely into the Dead Space games. I have played them. I played the first one quite a bit, but didn't finish it and didn't play any of the other ones. I think this, fans of the series will really enjoy this because it's meant to be like a prequel to the first game. But this is a really, really beautiful, cinematic, story-based on-the-rail shooter, and they've really tried to drop you into the story and make it feel like you're there. It's very panicky and quite scary. The House of the Dead games are kind of more ridiculous, not quite so scary. This is really atmospheric, and I actually did feel a little bit chilled here and there at times. It's just like playing a horror story, I suppose, and you're kind of trapped on this like space station. Everyone's going crazy. There's loads of panic, and it's really nice because it does have the same feeling and the same graphical style as the House of the Dead games, and it looks very nice. It's not obviously as nice as the Xbox 360 graphics, but it still looks very, very good and isn't out of the place as a Dead Space game. You've got similar weapons to the other Dead Space games as well, with the plasma cutter and the bolt gun thing, and it's also similar to the games that you've got to shoot the enemies in their limbs. They've got these huge legs that stick out, and you've got to try and cut them off or sever the heads, and that's really panicky. You shoot the legs off and they're on the floor, they're crawling towards you and trying to grab you, and then you've got to sever their arms, and it's really nice that works really, really well with an on-the-rail shooter or a light gun game, and it's kind of carrying on the way that the Dead Space games actually felt. It's really nice to play it in kind of chapters, so the story flows in little chapters. They're slightly longer than, say, a level of House of the Dead might be, or a section of House of the Dead, but you can't really skip the long dialogue, so it's meant to be immersive. It's not so much like a just drop in there and have a bit of arcadey fun, but still a really, really nice game. Next up is a superb on-the-rail shooter called Sin and Punishment, successor of The Skies, and I have done some gameplay footage of this before. Now, this is a sequel to a game that I believe was on the Nintendo 64, the first Sin and Punishment, which I never played. But it's really underrated, and I don't think it got as much credit as it deserved when it first came out. It's a really, really phenomenal game. You can choose as one of two characters, a guy and a girl, and they have different combat modes. But you'll just notice how great the Wii's graphics can really be. Now, this is one of the best looking Wii games that I've ever played. It really pushes the system to the limits. Not only that, though, it runs smoothly. Unlike House of the Dead Overkill, which had a little bit of lagging and a little bit of this and that, this game looks beautiful. It really handles very, very well. And what you'll notice is how much is going on screen. You've got things in the foreground, loads of lasers coming at you, and then you've got things in the background as well, ships and like space stations and enemies, and it's so impressive that they have that interaction between the different levels, and it kind of feels 3D. And there's a bit of hand-to-hand combat that you can do in there, I think, or not hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can slash the enemies, and you can run along the ground. And the thing that I remember being most impressive about that game is the boss battles. The bosses are absolutely superb. Really, really impressive. There's such creativity's gone into them, and they're very challenging as well. I can remember like the last boss in the game being really, really tough. And I think there were at least 3 difficulty settings, and I was playing it on normal and found normal to be really, really hard. So God knows what the hard difficulty would be like. But it's nice to play a game that isn't too gentle. It's like it's very, very intense, and I kind of think that on-the-rail shooters should be intense like that. It's really just addictive and a lot of fun, and just so beautiful graphically. So if you haven't played Sin and Punishment, you really need to get it, and I'm pretty sure it's very readily available online, not very much money. Okay, I thought I'd throw this one in there, seeing as I'm showing you all of my on-the-rail shooters. This is Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles, and I bought this just to kind of test out how it played and how the light gun worked with it. It's just seems a bit average to me. It just seems like a House of the Dead rip-off. Obviously it's Resident Evil, not House of the Dead, but it's still zombies, and it still feels like it's just very closely based on the House of the Dead games, but somehow misses out on the arcadiness. They've tried to make this game scary, but it's not immersive. It's not immersive in the way that the what's it called, Dead Space game is. It didn't manage to sucker me in and make me feel like I was connected and make me feel panicky and afraid. It just seemed a little bit boring. There's like cinematic sections, but actually there's just not a lot going on. And I felt like there was too much space between the action moments. If you're a real big fan of Resident Evil, you might enjoy that game. I think some of the characters from the other games reappear and things. But I just didn't enjoy it. And I was also kind of disappointed by the bosses. It's like some kind of bat boss that I wasn't really that interested in, a giant scorpion. It's like, I don't know. It just doesn't quite have enough creativity and enough intrigue for me to keep playing it. So I've played through a few missions on there and kind of just sacked it off. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'm being cruel. Maybe I'll go back and think, actually, it's quite good. But for now, I just got too many other great on-the-rail shooters to play before I'm going to play the Umbrella Chronicles. I think there was another Resident Evil light gun game on the Wii as well, but I've not played that. Meh. You know, I want to play Sin and Punishment more, and also playing a lot of the Dead Space game at the moment. So yes, those are my that's my collection of Wii on-the-rail shooters. Some really, really fun games there that maybe you'd like to check out. And just to highlight that the Wii is a great console. It can handle really great graphics, and also it's a really good console to try and play some of these light gun style games, because it works great with the control scheme. Alright guys, take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.